Vristavudai Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tenamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vicharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskachade Siddharne. Welcome everyone. So today we're reading from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, text number 32. Chapter 6 is Sankhya Yoga. Anmo pamyena sarvatra samam pashti orjuna sukham vadhi vadukam siyogi paramo mataha. The sound is good? Everyone can hear me? Okay. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings, both their happiness and distress, or Arjuna. Prabhupada's purport. One who is Krishna conscious is a perfect yogi. He is aware of everyone's happiness and distress by dint of his own personal experience. Cause of the distress of a living entity is forgetfulness of his relation with God. And the cause of happiness is knowing Krishna to be the supreme enjoyer of all the activities of the human being, the proprietor of all lands and planets, and the sincerest friend of all living entities. The perfect yogi knows that the living being who is conditioned by the modes of material nature is subjected to the threefold material miseries due to forgetfulness of his relationship with Krishna. And because one in Krishna consciousness is happy, he tries to distribute the knowledge of Krishna everywhere. Since the perfect yogi tries to broadcast the importance of becoming Krishna conscious, he is the best philanthropist in the world, and he is the dearest servitor of the Lord. Ichat tasmad manusheshu kasyan me priya krita maha. Bhagavad Gita 1869. In other words, a devotee of the Lord always looks to the welfare of all living entities. And in this way, he is factually the friend of everyone. He is the best yogi because he does not desire perfection in yoga for his personal benefit, but tries for others also. He does not envy his fellow living entities. Here is a contrast between a pure devotee of the Lord and a yogi interested only in his personal elevation. The yogi is withdrawn to a secluded place in order to meditate perfectly, may not be as perfect as a devotee, trying his best to turn every man toward Krishna consciousness. So the verse again, Atmo pamyena sarvatra samam pashati orjuna sukham vadukam siyogi paramo mataha. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings, both their happiness and the distress, or Arjuna. Om Agyanatimanadasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. This is one of the major themes in the Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, the main themes are understanding our eternal position, understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and the methods, and particularly one method, Bhakti Yoga, by which we can reconnect ourselves with Krishna again. Now, as we all know, at the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, the first instruction that Krishna gave to Arjuna, which we've heard innumerable times, Denosmi nitha dehe komaram yovanam jara tata dahantra praptir tiryas tatra namuyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in a body from boyhood to youth to old age, So similarly, the soul passes to another body at the time of death. A self-realized soul is not bewildered by such changes. Now, along with that instruction, Krishna has given many instructions. For instance, before that instruction, he had said in the verse previously, 2:12, Detvevaham jetunasam, detve neme janadipa, dechaivanapavishamma, sarve vayam atatparam. That there never was a time when I did not exist, nor you, or all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. In other words, we're all eternal. And Krishna explains what the qualities of someone who's eternal is in relation to the body in the 13th chapter, where he says, Anadidvam nirgunadvat paramatmayam avyayam sharira stopikonteya nakaroti nanalipite. That those who can actually see with the eyes of eternity can see that the soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of material nature. Despite contact with the material body or Arjuna, the soul is neither doing anything nor is he entangled. Just by being in a material body doesn't mean we become material. We're all transcendental. And whatever happens to the body is not happening to us, although we may identify with it and think it's happening to us, but actually we're aloof from the body. Just like our little baby body has disappeared, which ordinarily would be if one left his body when one was a child, everyone would cry. But people don't cry when our body changes, usually. As a matter of fact, year after year, they wish us a happy birthday. Although a birthday actually means the disappearance of our previous body. But no one laments, oh, your baby body is gone. It was such a beautiful body. No, you're supposed to be happy you have another birthday. So actually, this body is always disappearing moment to moment, but we recognize a year after our birthday is our birthday. Although it was actually the death day of our previous bodies. Anyhow, such is living in the material world. So the fact that we're eternal and that Krishna says everyone is eternal. The question is whether we want to live in the material world in relationship to this material body, or we want to live in this world in relationship to the soul and other souls. One is complete illusion, whether we be Brahma or the insignificant ant. Everyone here is just living in relationship to their body and everyone else's body, which is complete illusion, because we have nothing to do with either our body, nor does anyone else have anything to do with their body, except it's a vehicle that fulfills our desires. It can fulfill our material desires, or at least we can try to fulfill our material desires, or it can fulfill our desires to become Krishna conscious. That's our only free will. Either we can use this body to uncover our actual identity as a spiritual being, or we can utilize this body to serve the demands of our senses and mind. Now, everyone is trying to, in the material world, or what we call the material world, everyone is on a mission to fulfill the desires of their body and their mind. And those who have the same mission as us, who cooperate with us, we call friends. And those who have a mission which is against our mission, we call our enemies. And those who are not interfering with our mission or neither helping our mission, we don't care about. We're indifferent to them. Or we could say we're neutral to them. In any case, it has nothing to do with our actual self and our actual interest. For one who identifies himself with this car, then they think if you drive into a gas station because your tank is on empty and you fill the car with gas and you think my day is now complete. But just by filling the car up with gas doesn't mean you won't be hungry. So everyone is busy filling their tank with gas, but they remain spiritually hungry because actually the soul has desires also. It has hunger. The soul wants illumination of how to actually progress its tendency to love to an unlimited degree, eternally. Tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shudyat tasmai brahma sokyam antam. That the soul wants unlimited happiness that goes on forever. Now, as much as we're conscious of this body and a well-wisher of the body, unfortunately, the body cannot fulfill the desires of the soul by fulfilling the desires of the senses, except if we take prasadam or engage the senses in devotional service. That will actually fulfill the desires of not only the senses, but also of the soul. Because if we do things with this body in relationship to Krishna, then we have a relation with Krishna, and Krishna reciprocates. And if we forget Krishna and simply fulfill the demands or desires or the inclinations of the senses and the mind, then Krishna won't be there for us. And if Krishna is not there for us, then it's simply a struggle. Every day, wake up and think, oh, I hope I get something to eat today. And I hope there's a place to sleep. And I hope I can defend myself subtly and externally from outside forces. And if there's some positive relation with someone, some relationship that gives me some kind of happiness, that's very nice. But actually, this fear of whether or not I'm going to eat or sleep or mate or defend, this fear is a constant anxiety. But the real anxiety, because we have to be in anxiety, that's our eternal nature, to be in anxiety. Mother Jasoda is always in anxiety, but she's in anxiety about Krishna. She's wondering if the cows and the calves and the other animals will harm Krishna. She's in anxiety if Krishna fell into the water, into the mud, whether Krishna has something to eat today, whether Krishna is playing with his friends nicely. Mother Jasoda's eternally in anxiety, but her anxiety makes her blissful because she's always thinking about Krishna. So she's always hankering for Krishna's well-being, and she's always lamenting that she can't serve Krishna enough. Therefore, she's always meditating on Krishna. And because Krishna is the source of all pleasure, the more she's in anxiety about Krishna, the more she focuses her consciousness on Krishna, the more she becomes blissful. And the more her tendency to love expands unlimitedly. Therefore, she enjoys not only Krishna's association, but she enjoys her own inner pleasure from her own experiencing her own love for Krishna and for all living entities. And by her love, she's able to realize Krishna, his unlimitedly wonderful qualities, which always enchant her and all the residents of Vrindavan. So although it may appear to us at the present moment, and certainly to others, that we're wasting our time chanting Hare Krishna, serving the deities, or reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, but we're actually engaging in actual meaningful activities. Otherwise, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, Shrama Eva Hi Kevalam. Everyone else is just wasting their time. Now, we hope that people are wasting their time in something positive, like purifying their existence, elevating themselves, ultimately to the mode of goodness. But what is the reason why we want people to elevate themselves to the mode of goodness, at least, is that they can discover devotional service. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, Vishoshiti Nakangshiti, Samak Sarveshu Bhuteshu, Mad Bhaktim Lavate Param. One is at least jolly when one stops hankering, lamenting. And when one can see all living entities on the same level, that we're all spiritual beings, then one can actually begin actual devotional service to Krishna. In other words, we have to stop identifying ourselves and everyone else in this material world with our gross and subtle body, and everyone else with their gross and subtle body, and understand that everyone has the same final destination, that is to revive their relation with Krishna. Therefore, whatever is happening to us externally or even internally, we should understand this is all arranged by Krishna. Just like when Durvasa Muni became disturbed with Ambarish Maharaj, and he plucked the hair out of his head and created a fiery demon to kill Ambarish Maharaj. Ambarish Maharaj closed his eyes and meditated on Krishna in ecstasy. Now, Krishna happened to send a Sudarshan Chakra. I can't guarantee that Krishna, every time we close our eyes and try to think about Krishna, that the Sudarshan Chakra will be on its way. Still, Ambarish Maharaj didn't cry out for the Sudarshan Chakra. He just meditated on Krishna. Just so happened that he was such an advanced devotee that Krishna personally saved him. Now, if we think about it, if someone throws a knife at you and it misses, you generally don't pray for that person. May you have a good day. Or if the police start chasing after that person, you don't pray that he'll be safe and sound. But Ambarish Maharaj, for 1 year, because Durvasa Muni could not stay in that place, because the Sudarshan Chakra was chasing him, burning his backside. And therefore, for 1 year, Durvasa Muni had to travel all over the universe, trying to get shelter from the demigods. And ultimately, he tried to get shelter in Swetadweep, from Lord Krishna himself in the form of Vishnu. But during that whole year, Ambarish Maharaj was simply praying for Durvasa Muni's well-being. Now, if we were in that position, what would we do? What would we think? Would we be praying, I hope that Sudarshan Chakra gets that rascal, kills him. He deserves it for the welfare of the universe. No, Ambarish Maharaj was on the eternal platform. Therefore, he understood that his relation with Krishna was something special. It wasn't that Durvasa Muni was threatening his relation with Krishna, and therefore that relationship was in danger. Ambarish Maharaj took as the most important thing in this universe, in his existence, his relation with Krishna. And he understood that everyone else, they also have a relation with Krishna. And that's the most important thing in their existence. And this material existence is simply an opportunity to revive that relationship. Sometimes people or souls act in such a way as to progress, as to uncover their relation with Krishna, and sometimes they act in such a way as to cover their relation with Krishna. But since a liberated soul understands that Krishna wants everyone to go back to the spiritual world, that's the principal purpose of this universe. And therefore, as the eternal servants of Krishna, a devotee has the same desire that everyone go back to the spiritual world. And therefore, whatever we find friends and enemies, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarin Mitya Udashina Madhyastha Dveshu Bandishu Sadhu Shvapi Chapapeshu Samabhudir Vishishite. Is also from the 6th chapter, where Krishna mentions different types of relationships that we have with people. One is Sarit, friend. Rit means the heart, so a very dear friend. Sarit, let's see. This is chapter 6. Sarit Mitya Udasina. Ari means enemy. Madhyasta means kind of a neutral mediator. Bandishu is actually a very close friend also. Papa, those who are sinful, and those who are Surin Vidya Udasina, Madhyasa Dveshu Bandishu. So those who are sinful, Papa, those who are pious, and those who are indifferent and impartial. He understands that this is all part of the cosmic creation of karma. That it's not that people because they're by accident, we have some friends, and by accident, we have some enemies, and by accident, we have some persons who are indifferent and impartial. So this is all arranged by Krishna perfectly. And the lesson we have to learn is how to become Krishna conscious, no matter what the relationship we may have with others are, and become their well-wisher, that we should help them revive their relation with Krishna. Now, how we help them may be different for different persons, but at least we should practice helping those who are devotees. How do we help them? We may attend a class, like this is a class, to help each other become aware of Krishna. We're not going to teach you how to play basketball or soccer, or how to knit yarn, how to jump. We're simply explaining how to become Krishna conscious. Because that is actually something we can do anywhere, all the time, and actually benefit ourselves and others. Now, to uncover our own identity, we have to work for Krishna's mission. And Krishna's mission is Yari Deka Tari Kaha Krishna Upadesh Amara Aga Guruhara Tari Desh. That whoever we meet, we're supposed to meditate on how to help that soul become conscious of Krishna. Then we're serving Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that was his desire. He was lamenting, he told Haridas Thakur that I've delivered so many different living entities. I've delivered the animals from the forest, I've delivered the people in different parts of India. But what about the non-moving living entities? What should I do? How do they get delivered? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to deliver everyone. So Haridas Thakur told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, don't worry, my Lord, because by the loud chanting of the holy name, even the trees and other inanimate objects, inanimate living entities, I shouldn't say inanimate, not moving living entities, they'll also become delivered. So it is not that we're in the forest, we're all by ourselves, why chant Hare Krishna? Who's going to benefit except for me? No, even the trees are being benefited when we chant Hare Krishna, even the grass. Even the mosquito that's biting us is getting benefit. Not only is getting some prasadam from something offered by a devotee, but he's also hearing the holy name. So we may think that it sounds ridiculous. Why do we want to help a mosquito? Because we were mosquitoes at one time. And maybe someone chanted the holy name to us. We took a little prasadam. We heard the holy name, and now we're here. One time Prabhupada was talking to Govinda Dasi, and he saw a little insect on the table, and he told Govinda Dasi, chant to that little insect. Another time he called over Govinda Dasi and said, go get a piece of grass. So Govinda Dasi got a piece of grass, and he saw a little bug, and he gave it to him. He said, he looks hungry. Of course, that's not our main mission, is to feed the bugs blades of grass. But Prabhupada was demonstrating how we have to be compassionate to all living entities. And we should certainly be compassionate to ourselves. And the best way of being compassionate to ourselves is to distribute Krishna consciousness to others. Certainly by performing devotional service, chanting Hare Krishna, by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, worshiping the deities. That certainly Krishna is very pleased with that. But as it says in the purport, Ya idam paramam guyam mad bhakteshva vidashiti bhaktimayi param kritva mama vaishyati samshaya. At the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's final instructions, after giving up everything and surrendering to him, he said, in this world there's no one more dear to me than one who preaches this message to the devotees. And then, nor in the future, shall anyone become more dear than him. Even without going out and distributing books and creating devotees, still, if we act to each other as if we're devotees, because ultimately there's only two energies that we can act under, either the spiritual energy or the material energy. So one who's trying at least to act under the spiritual energy has to be considered to be a devotee, a vaishnava or a vaishnavi. And if we serve such a devotee, then Krishna becomes very pleased. If the devotee is pleased by our service, then we spiritually advance, because Krishna is also pleased. Of course, we have to do service to the devotees. Not that the devotee, he says, let's go to the movies. You think, yeah, well, I got to serve the devotees, so make him happy. So let's go to the movies. See something spiritual, like Avatar 2 or something. No, we have to please the devotees by doing devotional service to them. And then Krishna will be pleased, and then they'll be pleased, Krishna will be pleased, and we'll make spiritual advancement. So this idea of being atmopamyena sarvatra samampashiti arjuna sukhamvadi yuvadukam so yogi paramo mutaha. This is maybe theoretical to us, because Krishna says for one who's conquered the mind, it's the best of friends. And for one who failed to do so, he'll be the greatest enemy. Be able to see all living entities on the same level doesn't come overnight. It takes some practice. And it also means that we have to act appropriately, not only try to imagine how everyone is a spiritual being, but we also need discrimination. When Shukadeva Goswami finally got out of the womb of his mother, as we know, and he was walking, by the ladies who were bathing And in India, they bathe in a special place where they bathe without clothes on, naked. When Shukadeva Goswami walked by them, they did not cover themselves. But when his father, running after him, walked by, they all covered themselves very quickly. Vyasadeva was surprised that, why are you covering yourselves? I'm also a self-realized soul. As I mentioned before, the lady said, well, because you're a householder. And householders have to know what's the difference between male and female. I think that usually applies today also. So we also have to have some discrimination, but discrimination in a positive way, to know how to appropriately serve, especially the devotees, but also serve the innocent. And in one sense, by neglecting those who are not interested in becoming Krishna conscious, by not going on the internet and giving non-Krishna conscious sites likes, neglect them, we'll also be doing them a favor. Therefore, although we cannot act on the Uttama Adhikari platform, practically speaking, when we're in the Bali conception of life, therefore we have to act on the Madhyama Adhikari platform. That is, we have to try to see Krishna as the object of our worship and love, and chant Hare Krishna happily, without anxiety. Masuchaha. That we're chanting, thoughts are coming to our mind, and we take them as something very significant. Of course, as I usually say, if we're thinking that the temple I'm in is burning down, and we think, well, I have to finish my rounds first before I call the fire department, that may not be very appropriate. But in most cases, we don't have that problem. And therefore, most of our thoughts, we can safely ignore them, and nothing unnecessarily bad will happen. On the other hand, if we concentrate on chanting with attention and try to hear how we're chanting and make it more sincere, more loving, more happy, then the result is we'll actually be able to appreciate the holy name and eventually even feel Krishna's presence in the holy name, Srimati Radharani's presence in the holy name. Now, part of that is our relationship with others. Generally speaking, as Queen Kunti said, that dissension in the material world, or dissension means conflict in the material world, is due to our relating to each other. And because of that dissension, our minds become agitated. And generally when we're chanting, then memories start coming. And pleasant memories, unpleasant memories. But unless we relate to each other in Krishna consciousness as a service to help someone become conscious of Krishna, then the memory may be good or bad, but it's distracting. If it's good, we might become distracted. And if it's bad, we'll probably get more distracted. But if it's Krishna conscious, then it won't disturb us at all. It'll be part of Krishna's pastimes. Therefore, we especially have to be careful in our relations with each other, to be able to see who's superior to me in devotional service and take up the position as a servant. And those who are on the same level as me, to try to make friends with them, to try to assist them in their service if they accept our friendship, to be honest with them in our assessment if we see something we can help them improve, and to be able to take feedback from them to help our own progress in spiritual life. to be able to be a well-wisher of friends so they don't feel threatened by our what seems to be like criticism or attempts to help them, finding what we think can help them improve. And we're not disturbed when they give us constructive criticism to help us improve. And for innocent people or those who take us as an authority, as a guide, to be encouraging to them, to try to find out what will actually help them become inspired and enlighten them if they ask meaningful questions for their own progress in devotional service. So this takes some training and some experience. The tendency is, as it said, we oftentimes don't know who actually accepts us as an authority. And therefore, sometimes we act as an authority when people don't really think we're an authority. And we just agitate their minds. And then they agitate our minds because we think that you should accept me as an authority, but they think you're just trying to disturb my mind and lord it over me, cause me trouble. So not only they don't accept us as an authority, they think we're so many things, not very positive. And then we may say, well, I'm 2 weeks senior to you in devotional service. You must accept me as an authority, or else Yamaraj is going to have a full, one more person to take care of. So that makes the relationship less sweet. Our relationships are supposed to be sweet, and they can only be sweet when we have the appropriate relationship with others. When people want to understand things, and therefore they inquire submissively from the right person with the right attitude, then they are in a position to be receptive to the instructions we may give them. But if we give instructions, except in class you're a little bit more, one is a little bit more free to say some general knowledge. Someone may be agitated by hearing it, but there's nothing they can do about it, hopefully. And others may appreciate it, but one is giving general instructions in a class. Still, one should be perceptive of who one is talking to, so that one can try to give the maximum benefit to the people who are attending the class or lecture. But in general, we have to be careful that we choose the right persons as our guides. That means we have to have some background in the scripture. If we think everyone is divine, because they joined the movement so many years before we do, and therefore because they're a senior devotee, therefore whatever they say must be perfect, we'll get ourselves in trouble. So we also have to study Prabhupada's books to find out what the actual standard is. Because all of us, our aspiration should be that we're simply trying to become transparent mediums for the previous acharyas who are represented now by Srila Prabhupada and his sincere followers. If we don't know the scripture, we don't know, then there's every likelihood we'll think someone who's not very advanced is very advanced, and someone who's very advanced we may take as not so advanced. And therefore we may not choose the right guides and devotees to inspire us. And similarly, we need friends in Krishna consciousness, people we can reveal our minds to, and they can reveal our minds to us, and we can help each other advance in Krishna consciousness. And we also have to find devotees to instruct who are willing to take our instructions and our experience and our example, because that's what they desire. So we need all three relationships. But we should see ourselves in all the relationships as simply an instrument for the previous acharyas. Not that I become the spiritual absolute authority for someone, not that this friendship is based on something other than simply serving the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu under the direction of his representatives. And when I'm helping someone advance in Krishna consciousness, I also understand this knowledge and this experience that I give to help others is not due to my prowess or by my own qualification. It is all due to the fact that somehow or another I've taken shelter of the higher authorities, the acharyas, and their representatives, and therefore I can act as a vayamita or an instrument to help those who are lesser in their advancement in devotional service. So in that way, one remains humble, actually humble, as an instrument for Krishna, and one having the same interest as Krishna understands that this is the best position possible in existence, both material and spiritual. Simply become a transparent media for our previous acharyas and being an instrument by giving others Krishna consciousness, we're also receiving Krishna consciousness ourselves at the same time. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Comments?
I have a question, Maharaj.
Yes, Nirguna Das.
First thing, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I have a question regarding his instructions. He said that a devotee in the Bhagavad Gita, I said many times, because we are addicted to cinema and to movies, or joint was like the television is like the deity. So he said, don't go to the devotees don't enjoy going, the pure devotee doesn't enjoy going to cinema or to theater shows. But then there is this past time that he was in the plane and he was watching Charlie Chaplin, and he was very amused by him, and he complimented him that he's like representing something, a person in a strange situation, maybe in the material world. So how is it like, then we will follow his example, you know?
Yes, you should go and see Charlie Chaplin movies.
But that is also very like exhausting.
Well, then don't go and see them. You're not obliged to do it. Now, what Prabhupada did, we don't exactly have a blank card. You know, Prabhupada said, my disciples don't go and see movies. Because Prabhupada didn't go to see a movie. He happened to be on an airplane, and the movie was playing there. He didn't get on that airplane specifically to see the Charlie Chaplin movie. It happened to be playing on the airplane. But when Prabhupada was asked about it, Srila Prabhupada said that Charlie Chaplin, he's the ability in man. He appreciated that ability that Charlie Chaplin had was coming from Krishna. Now, if we can watch it, I say you can watch a Charlie Chaplin movie, you should also be able to remember Krishna during the whole movie. Then you're authorized to see the Charlie Chaplin movie. Otherwise, if you forget Krishna and you just try to enjoy the movie, then that's not allowed. Before you dance with the gopis in the rasa dance, lift Govardhan Hill. Then you can dance with all the gopis in the rasa dance. But if you can't do that, then don't dance with the gopis. If you can't live Govardhan Hill, don't dance with the gopis. Anything else?
Hare Krishna Gurudev. I just like to, when you were saying it, I like to be reminded about try to help everyone with the Krishna consciousness. And it was funny at work this week. I was helping somebody set up their online account for government services, and then they had to set up 3 secret questions and answers. And the first question they chose, what was the first street that I lived in? And they showed me their answer, and their answer was Dank Street. And I said, oh, I said, which suburb was that? And he said, Albert Park. And I was like, oh, really? And I said, I go there a lot for the temple. And he said, oh, really? I used to go there when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. And, you know, he's about a 50-year-old man. And he said he just went there because they gave the boys, he'd just go with his friends, they'd go and get hot chips. So, but they never actually went into the temple room. The devotees would just open the door for them and they could look inside, but they didn't actually go in. I said, come along, you know, whenever you want. Come for lunch every day. A bit more quiet at 1 o'clock. I think when he was going, it must have been just all Westerners and very quiet. But now it's just packed out all the time. So yeah, I said come along anytime and have free prasad, free food. Yeah, it's amazing the way Krishna arranged that. Like just his answer to the online question was Dank Street. I was like, oh my god.
Right, that's the Melbourne Temple in Australia.
Yeah, that's the address. Thanks.
Anyone wants to stop by, they have nice chips there. Someone else? Thank you, Drew.
I have another question.
Wait a second, wait a second. There's a line here.
All right.
Okay. Who has their hand up first?
Hare Krishna.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Guru, dear Guru.
No, wait. Okay, go ahead. Krishna Chaitanya.
Krishna Chandra.
Krishna Chandra. Or Doctor.
Hare Krishna, dear Guru Maharaj, thank you for your incredible lectures. Если вы разрешите, я задам вопрос по прошлой лекции. Я не смог его задать. Вы дали такую лекцию, она очень потрясла меня. Вы говорили о том, что у нас на сегодняшний день в ИСКОН 2 варны, только женщины и мужчины. И, к сожалению, не во всех странах это принимается, да, то есть меня это очень тронуло. И сейчас очень много сторонников варнашрамы, шудра, браман, шудра. И они оперируют тем, что Шрила Прабхупада, говорят так, что Шрила Прабхупада дал нам все, кроме он не успел нам дать варнашраму. Что можно ответить вот на такие аргументы? Буду вам очень благодарен.
Prabhu thanks you for an incredible lecture. He has a question from the previous lecture because it ended abruptly and he didn't get the chance to ask you about this. In your previous lecture, you have said that in ISKCON there is only 2 varnas, men and women. Maharaj, I did not translate it's a varna, I translated as a sex, man and a woman. However, Prabhu says that you said in your lecture that it's 2 varnas, men and a woman. And there are a lot of devotees who are saying that Srila Prabhupada has given us everything except varna ashrama, and that was his last desire, that we have varna ashrama. What do you say to the devotees like that?
Well, what I said, there's generally 2 genders. There's 2 major genders, male and female. That's all. I mean, I didn't say anything drastic. There's no varna for male, there's no varna for female. That's all I said. Okay.
Гуру Махарадж, вы говорили, да, что, ну, что важно акцентировать внимание на развитии сознания Кришны, не так важны варны вот в этом ключе, но я имел в виду, что сейчас очень много преданных, они как-то вот этой идеей варнашами очень захвачены как-то, и вот они ссылаются на Шилурпаду, что это то, что он не дал. То есть я так понимаю, что вы настраиваете нас больше на развитие сознания Кришны, а не на восстановление варнашами, правильно?
So Prabhu accepts what you said. He said, no, Guru Maharaj, you have said, yes, that there is two sexes, men and a women. And you always tell us that the most important thing is to develop your Krishna consciousness, not your Varna. But there are a lot of devotees who are currently saying that the only thing that Srila Prabhupada have never finished was giving us Varna Ashrama. Do I understand correctly that we should tell them that we should develop our Krishna consciousness and not our Varna Ashrama system?
No, Prabhupada Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was speaking to Ramananda Roy mentioned Varnashrama Charvita Purushena Pramakpaman. So Varnashram it's the beginning of human civilization. So that is important in the future, that we establish Varna and Ashram, especially for the sake of those who can't accept devotional service. At least so they can get something to eat. Otherwise, you can't. There's no possibility of advancing in any way, materially or spiritual, if you're starving to death. So Varnashram will be essential, especially in the future. But right now, we're not capable, most of us are not capable of really participating in the Varna and Ashram system. We're just lucky we can chant Hare Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spread the movement in the jungle of Jharkhand, not by teaching them Varna and Ashram, the tigers and the deer and the elephants, but just by chanting Hare Krishna. So similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement was not really spreading itself on the basis of Varna and Ashram, because although he lived in a culture, people were more or less cultured at that time, but when he went to South India and he converted different tribes to Krishna consciousness, and even different persons like the Buddhists, etc., the primary method was by chanting Hare Krishna, although they were not participating in Varna Ashram. Now, if we could establish Varna Ashram, that would be very nice in the future. But right now, our major is that we're just trying to convince, our major desire is to convince people that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, something that people born in the Vedic system, at least in civilized Vedic system, that they understood that. So if we can do that, then on that basis, humans, the aspects of Varnashram and other aspects that will help them advance easily in Krishna consciousness can be established. But that's more or less, we don't have enough energy to do both at the same time, generally speaking. Although the elements of Varna and Ashram are there in our society. For instance, we may try and develop farm communities. But that doesn't mean by establishing a farm community that we've established Varna Ashram. Because Varna Ashram is ultimately meant for Yagya by Vishnu, sacrifice for Vishnu. That's the whole basis. That's the reason for Varna and Ashram. So just having a farm community without the chanting of the holy name, without devotional service, won't last very long, because it'll be just mundane. So the farm communities have to have sacrifice. Our temples have to have the sacrifice of the holy name. That's our main thing, is distributing the holy name. But in the future, there may be actual real Kshatriyas who protect the devotees and make sure the sacrifice goes on. And there may be real Vaishyas to take care of the cows, real Shudras to assist. But devotees are not Shudras, they're not Kshatriyas, they're not Brahmins, they're devotees. Prabhupada wanted us to establish one ashram to help regulate our activities to some degree, because we already have that within our society already. We have Brahminical initiation to encourage us to come to the mode of goodness. We have marriages, etc., etc. So we have elements of our ashram. But it's just to assist us in chanting the holy name. But for others in the future, it'll be their building blocks so they can actually come to the platform of devotional service, that they can live in a civilized society, protecting the cows, protecting the children, protecting the women, protecting themselves, growing the food that they need, and offering some of it to sacrifice to Krishna under the protection of the Brahmins and the managers, the Kshatriyas. And although they may not be directly engaged in devotional service, they'll act as a stepping stone so that eventually they might be engaged in devotional service in this lifetime or in the next. Natasha.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I already forgot my question. No, my question was about, thank you for the lecture. And my question was about dharmic and compassionate behavior. Sometimes, we can express compassion, but the need is more in like dharmic behavior. Let's say, for example, someone gets abused or something like that. So how to distinguish between the need of compassionate behavior and more like dharmic behavior when the person needs to be punished also. I don't know if I formed
we have to know what our business is, what our business is not. Now, we're trained up to help people who are abused. That's part of our business. If we're not trained to help people who are abused and we try to do that, and we forget about our Krishna consciousness, that's not really supposed to be our business, because that's really not what we're supposed to be doing. We should send them to someone who can actually help them.
And if it is connected to you personally, for example, if I'm abused?
Well, we should go to someone who can help us. Because if you go to the devotees, they'll tell you to chant Hare Krishna, but you already know that. If that's not sufficient, then you go to someone else who can help you in something, whether it's a devotee or perhaps even a non-devotee, can assist you in the whatever difficulty you're going through. Generally speaking, you have a toothache, you don't go to the devotees. And they tell you, well, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And you say, well, that doesn't work. And they look in your mouth and say, well, I have a pair of pliers. I think I can take care of your problem. You go to someone who actually knows how to deal with the problem in a more practical way, like a dentist.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to the dentist and you ask him how many rounds are you chanting, he says, well, what are you talking about? And you say, well, I'm sorry, my tooth might hurt, but I only go to dentists who are pure devotees. You have to be practical too sometimes. Even Prabhupada, when he heard from one colonel in the army that he'd be better if he printed hard-covered books because they'd be valued more. So Prabhupada decided that, yes, I should do that. He didn't ask the colonel, how many rounds are you chanting? Do you believe in Krishna? No, he took his good advice coming from the Super Soul. One last question from...
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the question. Nirguna.
Thank you, Maharaj, for letting me ask another question. I don't know really the answer. When we go out to preach, we see so many beautiful people, sometimes in the streets, especially now I'm in Arequipa in Peru, and you see the tourists, they are very beautiful people coming, and you just wonder, it says that that beauty and high education and money and this, it's all come from, it's like a sign of good karma. So why all these people are such voracious meat eaters? how is it working that they got good body, but they are very simple?
Well, if you give in charity, then you'll get good karma. If you perform some austerity sometime in your previous lifetime. In other words, those who are less pious, well, those who perform some kind of pious activity in their previous lifetime get a better opportunity in this lifetime. Now, if they misuse it, and then they start performing sinful activities, then they're just using up their previous karma, good karma, that's all. You can save in the bank, and therefore you have some money to spend, but if you spend it in the wrong way, you don't invest it properly, then you lose all the money. You wind up broke after some time. So they got a good opportunity, but if they don't use it properly, then they'll be broke. In the next lifetime, they'll be born in a lower position. Thank you all. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Swami Vivekananda Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very
Hare
much, Guru
Krishna.
Maharaj.
Namaste, Hare Krishna.